Time does not knock before it enters. It slips like dust through broken windows. It settles quietly on our laughter. It stains the corners of our dreams. I have seen its shadow on my mother's hands, fine lines like rivers across her skin, each wrinkle a silent testimony to battles she never spoke about. Time is not loud like thunder. It is patient like falling sand. Grain by grain it buries the castles we built in youth. There was a day when my heart beat like a wild horse in open fields, when love felt eternal, untouched by rust or distance. But time carved its initials into the bark of that young tree, and the tree still stands, yet it bleeds sap from old cuts. I remember promises whispered at dusk, words floating like fireflies. We thought they would glow forever, but morning scattered them away. Time has a cruel tenderness. It teaches while it takes. It gives wisdom wrapped in sorrow, and strength stitched with scars. The mirror has become my historian, recording every silent storm. Every night I swallowed tears so the world would not taste my salt. There were friendships once golden, bright as summer afternoons. Now they are autumn leaves, crisp memories underfoot. I walk through corridors of yesterday, hearing echoes of who I was, a younger voice calling my name, unafraid of tomorrow's weight. Time wounded my innocence first, gently, almost kindly, like a teacher correcting a child who still believes in miracles. Then it touched my father's hair, turning black to winter gray. I saw in that transformation how seasons live inside us. The clock on the wall never weeps, though it witnesses every goodbye. Its hands keep moving forward while my heart lingers behind. There was a love that felt endless, a universe in a single gaze. We built constellations from our dreams and called them destiny. But destiny bent under time's pressure, like metal left in rain. What once shone with certainty now flickers like a tired star. I have learned that time does not heal. It rearranges the pain. It moves it from the surface to a deeper, quieter chamber. Some wounds fade into pale lines. Others remain open whispers. They speak in the language of longing when night sits heavy on my chest. I have forgiven time many times, though it never asked for pardon. For without its harsh lessons, I would still be fragile glass. The child inside me still asks, why must everything change? Why must laughter become memory and memory become ache? Time answers with silence, its favorite weapon, leaving me to translate the meaning of loss alone. There are photographs in dusty boxes, smiling faces frozen in light. They do not know what came after. They do not feel what I feel now. I trace those images with trembling fingers, as if I could re-enter the frame, stand beside the version of me who had not yet been broken. Time wounded my trust in people, in forever, in promises, yet it also taught me how to stand alone without collapsing. There was a night I thought my heart would not survive. Grief pressed against my ribs like a storm against thin glass. But morning arrived as it always does, unapologetic and bright, proving that even shattered souls are forced to keep breathing. I have seen time in hospital rooms, in silent prayers and trembling hands, in the way hope flickers between machines and whispers. I have seen it in empty chairs at tables once full of laughter, an absence louder than thunder, a quiet that screams. Time writes poetry on our bodies, invisible ink of endurance, each scar a stanza, each tear a verse. I carry years like hidden stones in the pockets of my spirit. They weigh me down at night when sleep refuses to come. There was betrayal once, sharp as broken glass. Time did not erase its edges but dulled them enough to hold. I can speak of it now without my voice collapsing. That is time's strange mercy. It turns screams into stories. Yet some wounds reopen suddenly. A scent, a song, a familiar street, and I am again that fragile soul standing in the ruins of trust. Time has taken people I love, carried them beyond my reach, leaving behind echoes and unfinished conversations. I talk to them in quiet moments, as if they stand beside me. Perhaps time is only a curtain and love exists behind it still. There were dreams I buried, not because I stopped wanting them, but because time demanded a different version of survival. Responsibility grew like vines around my youthful ambitions, and I learned that adulthood is often a compromise with desire. Time wounded my illusions, yet freed me from naivety. It replaced fairy tales with resilience. I have watched cities change, old buildings falling to dust, new towers rising with pride, as if progress has no memory. But I remember the narrow streets where childhood laughter lived. Time erased the walls, but not the echoes in my heart. There is a loneliness that comes not from being alone, but from knowing that nothing stays. Time whispers this truth daily, in sunsets and in wrinkles, in the fading of music after the last note trembles. I once feared growing older, as if age were an enemy. Now I see it as a badge earned through silent battles. Each year has left its fingerprint on the surface of my soul. Some prints are bruises, others are blessings disguised. Time has broken me gently, piece by piece, yet in the breaking I discovered my strength. I no longer chase eternity. I sit with fleeting moments, holding them like fragile birds before they take flight. The wounds of time still ache, especially when rain falls, but they no longer define me. They simply remind me. They remind me that I loved deeply, that I trusted fully, that I dared to dream even when the world was uncertain. Time may continue its carving, may etch more lines on my face, may steal more people from my side, may alter my path again. But I will not curse it entirely, for within its relentless march I have found wisdom and a quieter kind of peace. If I could speak to time itself, I would not ask it to stop, only to be gentle with the heart still learning. For we are all travelers here, walking on fragile hours, carrying invisible wounds that only time can give. And when my final sunset comes, when the clock releases my name, I hope my scars will testify that I lived, I loved, I endured. For the wounds of time are not only marks of pain, they are proof of existence, proof that we have felt the world. And in that feeling, even in sorrow, there is a strange, unbreakable beauty. And perhaps that is time's deepest secret, not destruction, but transformation, not cruelty, but a relentless sculptor carving meaning from fragile clay. I have stood beneath winter skies, breathing air sharp as memory, feeling the ache in my chest like an old door creaking open. The years pass like migrating birds, never asking permission to leave. Their wings beat against my ribs as they search for warmer horizons. There are names I no longer speak, not from hatred, but from healing, for some syllables still tremble like cracked glass in my mouth. Time took my anger first, left me with understanding, showed me how bitterness poisons the one who carries it. I once counted days obsessively, waiting for pain to expire, but pain has no calendar. It lingers beyond expectation. Still, the heart adapts like roots searching through stone, finding hidden water where none seemed possible. I have watched children grow, their laughter untamed by fear, and I see in their bright eyes the innocence time will someday claim. I want to shield them from it, from broken promises and quiet funerals, from nights when tears soak the pillow without witness. But I know time must touch them too, must teach them through experience, must mark their soft skin with lessons only living can give. There are mornings when I wake with gratitude instead of grief, when sunlight spills across the floor like forgiveness. On those days, the wounds of time feel less like open scars, more like metals hidden beneath ordinary clothing. I have forgiven myself as well, for mistakes made in youth, for loving too fiercely, for trusting too quickly. Time revealed that imperfection is the price of being human, and shame fades slowly when met with compassion. I have lost chances, doors that closed without warning, paths I never walked because fear stood in the way. Regret is another wound of time, a quiet ache in the bones, but even regret teaches the value of courage. I walk now with slower steps, not from weakness, but from awareness of how fragile hours are. The sunset seems deeper in color, the night more honest in silence, because I know they are fleeting, because I know they are gifts. Time has stolen illusions but given perspective. It has taken certainty but offered wisdom. There are still days I break, moments when the past rises like a tide threatening to drown me. Yet I have learned to float, to let memory pass beneath, to breathe through the ache instead of resisting it. The wounds of time no longer terrify me. They are companions now, quiet reminders of battles survived. I think of all the versions of myself scattered across the years, the child, the dreamer, the lover, the one who thought the world was simple. They live inside me still, layered like rings in a tree, each year etched in silence, each season leaving its mark. If I close my eyes long enough, I can almost feel their hands, guiding me forward through unfamiliar terrain. Time is not my enemy anymore. It is a stern teacher, demanding growth through inevitable change. It shows me that endings are only disguised beginnings, that loss can become soil for something new to bloom. I have seen broken hearts mend, watched shattered trust rebuild, observed how even the darkest nights eventually surrender to dawn. Yes, the wounds remain, but they no longer bleed endlessly. They have become part of my story, threads in the fabric of who I am. And perhaps one day, when I am older still, when my hands tremble with age, and my voice softens into whispers, I will look back at these scars not with sorrow, but with reverence for all they represent. For time has shaped me, pressed me against hardship, polished me with grief, strengthened me through endurance. I am no longer the untouched soul who feared the ticking clock. I am a survivor of seasons, a witness to change. The wounds of time are written across my being, but they are not curses, they are chronicles. They speak of love that once burned bright, of friendships that warmed cold nights, of tears shed in secret and laughter shared in sunlight. They speak of courage found when all seemed lost, of hope rekindled in the ashes of despair. And as the clock continues its steady rhythm, as minutes dissolve into years, I stand unafraid of its march, for I have learned its language. Time will continue to wound, to carve, to claim, but I will continue to rise, to heal, to become. For within every scar there is a story of survival, and within every ending there is the seed of tomorrow. So let time move forward, let it leave its marks upon me. I will carry them with quiet pride, as proof that I have lived. For the wounds of time are not merely injuries, they are the sacred signatures of a life fully felt, and still the hours unfold before me, like a long desert road at dusk, endless, shimmering, uncertain, yet strangely beautiful in its silence. I have learned to listen to the ticking, not as a threat but as a heartbeat, a reminder that I am still here, still breathing between seconds. There were nights when I begged time to rewind its merciless hands, to return one moment, just one, where everything had not yet fallen apart. But time never walks backward. It does not revisit old addresses. It builds new roads over ruins and calls it progress. So I gathered the fragments, the broken glass of memory, and shaped them into windows through which I now see clearly. Pain once felt like punishment. Now it feels like initiation, a doorway I had to pass through to discover my own depth. Time wounded my expectations, those delicate castles of forever. Yet it taught me that nothing promised is more sacred than what is present. I hold today differently now, as if it were water in my palms, careful not to squeeze too tight, careful not to let it slip unnoticed. There are quiet afternoons when nostalgia knocks softly, carrying the scent of old summers and voices long faded. I welcome it without drowning. I sit with it like an old friend. We speak of what once was, then part without tears. The wounds of time have matured. They no longer shout for attention. They hum softly beneath my skin, like distant thunder beyond hills. I have watched my own reflection change from dreamer to realist, from restless seeker to patient observer of life. Ambition once burned like wildfire. Now it glows like steady embers, not weaker, only wiser, not frantic, only focused. Time has a way of humbling pride, of bending stubborn will. It reminds us that control is often an illusion we clutch. There were arguments I regret, words thrown like careless knives. I wish I could gather them back from the air where they still linger. But time does not erase spoken wounds. It only softens their echo, leaving us to learn the weight of language and silence alike. I have learned to apologize quickly, to forgive without delay, for grudges age poorly in the chambers of the heart. The years have introduced me to loss in many forms. Not only death, but distance, change, and goodbye. Friends moved like drifting clouds. Lovers faded into strangers. Even dreams evolved into shapes I barely recognized. Yet within every departure was a hidden arrival, a lesson stepping quietly into the space left behind. Time wounded my certainty but expanded my compassion, for I now see how fragile every soul truly is. We are all carrying something unseen, a heartbreak, a failure, a fear, and time is writing on each of us in ink no one else can fully read. I no longer envy untouched faces, smooth and unlined by sorrow, for I know the depth of character that only endurance can carve. There is dignity in surviving, in waking up after devastation, in choosing to try again when giving up seems easier. Time once felt like a thief, stealing youth and simplicity, but now I see it as a craftsman shaping resilience from raw emotion. I think of the elders I've known, their eyes carrying entire histories, their laughter rich with memory, their silence filled with wisdom. They too bear the wounds of time, yet they walk with quiet grace, proof that scars can coexist with serenity. I aspire to that calm strength, that acceptance of life's design, to greet each passing year without bitterness. Time has shown me that nothing truly belongs to us. Not people, not moments, not dreams, only the experience of them. And experience is enough. Enough to shape identity, enough to teach empathy, enough to remind us why we must cherish what remains. There are still fears within me, of future losses not yet faced, of changes I cannot predict, of endings I cannot delay. But fear no longer paralyzes,